Board of Studies and Biotech Committees of several universities. Served the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India as a member of Task Force on Biofertilizers and Biopesticides. Currently, he is the President, Bioagri Input Producers Association, that is called BIPA. Dr. Reddy received several international, national and state level awards such as Best R&D, Best MSME, Best Innovation, Best Industry from Honorable Presidents of India for his contributions in research, innovations, product development with special reference to bio-intensive integrated crop management to improve agricultural productivity. Currently, Dr. Reddy is heading Shri Bioaesthetics Private Limited in Hyderabad. So I welcome and invite Dr. K.R.K. Reddy to please deliver his lecture.
Sir, you're on mute, I suppose, not audible, sir.
Sir, you are on mute.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it is fine, sir.
So my topic is a role in crop nutrition and especially abiotic stress mitigation and improving crop productivity. So my both the previous speakers, their focus was mostly on the seaweeds and seaweed extracts and seaweed fortified amended biostimulants. So in fact, I am one of the very earliest technology transfer taken from CSM CRI, Bhavnagar, maybe 20 years back. That was the technology was very primitive. And the dose was around 10 to 20 liters per acre. So at the time, Dr. C.R.K. Reddy, somebody was there in charge, and I visited CSM CRI. From there, I went directly to Mandapam, and where I met Dr. Subbarao, and I would recall we have collected seaweeds those days, maybe 23, 24 years back. So that was the first trial. Of course, that was the only biostimulant available at the time, apart from other, I think, fulvic acids and humic acids. So this is the microbes and their interventions. So you rightly pointed out, doctor, in fact, actually these any biostimulant that triggers growth of the microbes which are there in the soil. Microbes are very essential for the plant growth, survival, and productivity. There is an intimate connection between the plants and the microbes. So now I think the science is growing like anything. And now the science, especially the omics, opened the gates and understanding the microbial plant interactions and interventions of the microbes at various levels of plant growth and development. Now, whole world, we are now talking about regenerative agriculture. And what happened to our soils, we know. The last 50, 60 years, we are focusing mostly on the conventional chemicalization of the agriculture. And now everyone realized how much damage caused to our environment, health, and as well as the soil. So slowly we are realizing, and our government of India is seriously focusing on encouraging natural farming, or organic farming, or zero budget farming, whatever it may be. So the meaning is reducing chemical inputs and encouraging biological and organic inputs. So now within this regenerative agriculture, the biological agriculture is another the new point that is going to be the big business opportunity in agriculture. So therefore now I think it is evident from biostimulants brought under FCO, it is also a point of what you call interest of the governments and also the society. So where the natural resources can be used and where we can, of course, reduce the carbon footprint. So what you talk about, we are talking about today is the regenerative agriculture as well as regenerative biological agriculture, that is bringing back life to the soil. So it is many ways we can do it, but our objective, especially our focus, is mostly on using the microbial communities, the microbes which are essential for restoring and rebuilding soil organic matter, soil biological properties, and biodiversity, and improving the carbon fixation, nitrogen cycles. This apart, so incorporation of the biological nutrient recycling, the soil regeneration, it is also another the critical factor to be addressed. So therefore, the biological crop protection, crop nutrition, and other crop management practices or methods all now helpful to preserve the biodiversity and also insect tolerance or resistance management. And we can definitely reduce the chemical inputs in our agriculture. So that is the objective of the biological regenerative agriculture. Now I talk about the role of microbes in this. The role of microbes in the agricultural, what you call the agri management. So last 20 to 30 years, our focus, our understanding of the microbes in a different direction. Previously, we know very few biofertilizers like rhizobium, phosphate soluble bacteria, or one or two individual microbes are exploited thoroughly as a biofertilizer. But ever since the omics are now actually available as tools or a toolbox, now we are understanding how important microbes in our daily life, not only for the plants but also the humans. And the crop microbiome or plant microbiome, human microbiome, there's a lot of focus nowadays, and also understanding their role in growth and metabolism of animals, plants everywhere. So therefore, we cannot isolate our microbes, our life, not only our life, including the plant. So there is an intimate connection between the microbes and the plants, microbes and the insects, microbes and humans. So the new technologies pave the way to understand the minute changes happens within the plant system due to intervention of the microbes, maybe a positive or negative. So likewise, even we can always compare the soil with the gut of human beings, the dynamics and the diversity of microbial populations in the stomach, and likewise the diversity of microbial populations in the soil. So therefore, there is a intimate connections between the microbes and the humans and microbes of the plants. Therefore, now the microbes plays a greater role. Not only they cause pathogenicity, but also they helps in the survival of the plants. So now understanding of the microbes individually, today understanding of the microbes collectively. So collective understanding the microbes, now we call it as a microbiome. So that means all the microbes which are associated with the plant or animal, wherever they are, it may be the insect microbiome or the plant or animal, it may be the microbes present on our skin or our stomach or our eye or vagina. Likewise, the microbes present in the rhizosphere, underground or above ground or inside the plant or surface of the plant. All these microbes are collectively called as microbiome. So therefore, we are now thoroughly understanding the crop microbiome or a plant microbiome from various perceptions. It may be the physiological, biochemical, molecular, or so many tools are available now. Therefore, the manipulation of these microbes are now easy, and also this manipulation now we can call it as engineering. So engineering is, we are now termed here as the assembling of various kinds of microbes which are useful to the plant either through the seed treatment, soil applications, or polyasprays. Therefore, first of all, so what are those microbes which are important to the plant? So those microbes are called as essential microbes. That means there are millions and millions of microbes we see everywhere on the phyllosphere, on the surface of the plant, and in the rhizosphere, within the root zone of the plant, endosphere, within the system of the plant, and some are free living in the soil. The millions and millions of microbes are associated with the plant, but how many are good, how many are bad, how many are neutral? So we know the bad microbes which cause pathogenicity to the plant, it may be in the form of diseases and maybe in the form of some kind of a damage, the viral, bacterial, fungal. At the same time, there are good microbes also. So without these good microbes, the plants cannot survive. So therefore, what are those good microbes which helps the plant? Those good microbes, now you can identify, and also you can have the data, and you make a functional microbial bank. FMB. Now, the most of the research institute, agriculture research institute or CSI research institute, they're all now looking for the novel microbes with the novel functions and the what do you call their interventions. Now we are documenting, we are preserving those microbes which can be used for any, maybe animal health or human health or the plant health. So therefore, this manipulation of these microbes for the benefit of plant growth, development, survival, and the biotic stress tolerance or the the biotic stress tolerance. This kind of manipulation or maybe the optimization of the rhizosphere is called microbiome engineering. Now, one such, so this is what actually we are just showing wherever these microbes, maybe the microbes present in the seed. The seed also pack their own microbes. The plant recruits their own microbes. The plant exudates, they really attracts a group of microbes which are intimately associated. So likewise, all these microbes, maybe microbes are the wild plant or the microbes are the domesticated crops. So we have domesticated, all these crop plants are domesticated once they were wild. So all these microbes today, if you can categorize into three verticals: biofertilizers, biopesticides, and biostimulants. This is the new one which is included in FCO 1985. It was February 23rd of 2021 as biostimulants. So now I am only focusing on the microbial biostimulants. If you categorize biostimulants in two kitties, one is organic biostimulants, another one is the microbial biostimulants. So where you can employ those essential microbes which are required for the crop. So what are the functions? Maybe they are under nitrogen fixation, phosphate solubilization, and maybe the carbon sequestration. There are direct actions and indirect actions of these microbes. So now these biostimulants, which are one category of the microbes, and the definition as it is very clear, it may be a plant extract or animal extract, any natural extract, including microorganisms, or in combination of the organic which has a indirect effect on the crop plants. These are all called as biostimulants, and the Act also clearly says there is a clear definition of these biostimulants. It can be a living entity or maybe a non-living which is extracted from the organic source. So there is a microbial interactions I mentioned about. There are direct actions of the microbes, indirect actions of the microbes. There are interactions between the microbes, and there is also an interaction between the microbe and the plant. There are different kind of actions and interactions happens. All these things can be captured nowadays using omic studies. So these are all the what you call actions and listed here, including nutrient use efficiency. That means the microbes helps in nutrient acquisition, nutrient use efficiency, nutrient solubilization, and nutrient mobilization and nutrient assimilation. That means you see how many wonderful events conducted by tiny microbes. So at the same time, there is a interactions between the plant and the microbe, like production of the enzymes within the system, in situ production of these microbes triggered by the microbial actions. So likewise, there are the hormones, phytohormones are produced within the plant, and antibiotics are produced within the plant. And also there is a systemic acquired resistance or induced systemic resistance. They're all acquired because of the interventions of these microbes with the plant communities. At the same time, the antagonism. So that means what we know very well, that a microbe can kill another microbe. It's like vaccination today. It is nothing but attenuated, or a gene of a pathogen can be introduced into the the killed one, and our body reacts and produces antibodies. So likewise, even within the plant also, sometimes there is a innate immunity is there. At the same time, there is induced immunity also there. That is because of the microbial actions. That means a tiny microbes can do a wonderful functions. How to exploit these microbes and how to trap these actions, and also how to convert into a delivery system as a saleable delivery system. That's an industrial process. Once again, there is a chain of reactions. As it happens, ultimately you can convert these microbes into a delivery system. This delivery system can be a soil application one, or a seed treatment one, or a foliar spray one. It can be a tablet, a capsule, or a granule, or maybe sometimes a liquid foliar or a powder. So, nutshell, these are all the microbes we can call it as AIM, agriculturally important microbes, all under 4 categories actually. One is biofertilizers, biopesticides, biostimulants, and the 4th one is bioremediation. So we know that scavengers, microbes are great scavengers. These microbes can be used for bioremediation or phytoremediation, but unfortunately so far these bioremediators are not under any kind of a act. But all the 3 other kinds are now under act, that is biopesticides under Insecticide Act 1968, biofertilizers FCO 1985, and the recently introduced biostimulants are also falls under FCO 1985. So therefore, now every microbe can be categorized under ACT. So as I mentioned, these are the various kinds of actions on the left side where the microbes can intervene every function of the plant in terms of nutrition, growth, defense, abiotic stress, and biotic stress. So at the right side, you can see the omics platform where you can understand the microbial functions at minute level. So therefore, now the science is open and now the gates are open. How best we can tap those microbes which are very good for the survival of the plant, or maybe seed germination, or maybe the seed vigor improvement and enhancement of seedling growth. There are many functions by a microbe can do. And of course, there is a very systemic strategic approach of research in this direction, and where you can identify these microbes from various ecological niches, habits and habitats. Very diversified microbes we can get from agroecological zones, maybe from the marine ecosystem, desert ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, cropland ecosystem. You can get a diversity of microbes, bring it to your lab, understand, apply omics, and finally a selection. The selection is based on the function of the microbes can deliver in agricultural management. And finally, where you can make your total schematic, what you call SOP, standard operating protocol, how these microbial biostimulants can be isolated, characterized, understanding the function, and how these can be delivered to the farming community as a product. So now there is an established protocols are available, and all are biostimulants, biofertilizers, and biopesticides. If you talk about the 3 areas, one is seed, soil, and growing plant. First one is seed, where you can coat the seed with microbial biostimulants, which helps increase the germination of the seed, improve the vigor, and also disease suppression, because there are a lot of soil-borne pathogens are there. These biostimulant microbes or biopesticide microbes, they really suppress the plant pathogens. That apart, there are microbes which can produces the secondary metabolites, maybe cell-free metabolites, or these are the combinations. They can really work wonders. There are several products available in the market. And somebody said now this biostimulant market is growing at a 60 to 70% CAGR, because not exactly with one molecule, there are 7 or 8 now the components are categories of biostimulants are available. Our friend Vipin Saini will be, of course, informing the audience about all kinds of the biostimulants and the regulatory status in our country. This apart, now the foliar applications for growth and development, once again, disease suppression and insect control. The insect control is what we call biotic stress management using microbes, selected microbes, because they induce the disease, what we call suppressing molecules or metabolites within the plant. Therefore, the plant become tolerant to the insect pests. So likewise, microbes, self-use extract, there are several extracts are now available for weed management and also the insect management. It may be a sucking pest or a foliar pest. And finally, these microbes, biostimulant microbes especially, improve as seedling growth or seed germination, soil health, and foliar health management. So this is the market size now. The markets are also three segments: the biological seed treatment segment, and soil application segment, and also crop protection segment. So now we are talking about only those microbes serve as biostimulants. The market is growing definitely. There is 1,000 crores market is available within India, readily available. But of course, the categories we do not know much, but mostly dominated by seaweeds, seaweed extracts, amino acids, then followed by the humic acids, fulvic acids, vitamins, enzymes, and finally microbes. Unfortunately, though these microbes are mentioned in the definition of biostimulants and also in the label claim of the biostimulants, unfortunately, the microbes are missing from the list and categories of biostimulants. Of course, we have written to the government, and the biostimulant committee is looking at it and very positively. So therefore, what we propose, even from this forum, we do not want so many acts for simple natural microbes. These microbes are available everywhere. They are ubiquitous in nature. They're available in water, soil, and air. And these are all the natural. We are not using any genetically engineered microbe. Therefore, we request even governments or maybe the bodies to categorize all the microbes under one umbrella. You call it as agriculturally important microbes. Those are the microbes naturally available in our own soils. Why do you want to categorize under pesticides, fertilizers, and stimulants? So as long as these microbes are natural, not GMOs, can be considered under one act, that may be a microbial act or something like that. This is actually we are proposing, not only in my personal capacity as president of BIPA. So finally what we propose, microbes assisted agriculture, and these microbes are isolated from our own native soils and the plant, the habitats, and phyllosphere, endosphere, or rhizosphere, and for the soil health, seed health, plant health, in terms of nutrition, abiotic stress, and biotic stress. So therefore, the cooperative microbes associated with the plant have enormous potential for economical and sustainable agriculture. So therefore, microbes have many traits with enormous potential in helping to solve many challenges associated with the crop well-being. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy, for a very enlightening talk on revelations of soil micro plant interrelationship and how the omics technologies have unraveled the science behind the action of microbial biostimulants. We definitely have one more takeaway from your talk, that is sort of recommendation that can be given from ICC's side, that we need to bring this agriculturally important microbes, all of them under one regulatory umbrella. So thank you, Dr. Reddy, once again. Now I will invite Mr. Vipin Saini to deliver his talk on implementing of the biostimulant regulatory framework in India. This is especially going to be important because biostimulants have been recently brought under this fertilizer control order very recently in 2021. And I think there will be many questions which the new entrepreneurs might be having in their minds. So I think Mr. Vipin Saini will be able to clear the air on it. Before inviting him, I will read out a brief of his bio sketch. Mr. Vipin Saini is a regulatory affairs specialist, educationalist, environmentalist, toxicologist, data analyst, writer and publisher, historian and book collector, and humanitarian, about having 30 years of experience in the field of biosciences and related regulatory aspects related to national and international norms. Currently, he is the Chief Executive Officer of Biological Agri Solutions Associations of India, BASAI, from March 2019 onwards, and also member of various governmental departmental committees and subcommittees. He is recently awarded for excellence in print media agri-journalism during the Progressive Agri Leadership Summit 2021. Now I invite Mr. Vipin Saini to please come and deliver his talk. Mr. Vipin Saini.
Mr. Saini? Sir, maybe we will give him a call. You can, continue with the next speaker, maybe.
Okay, fine. So I think there is some technical problem. So now I invite Dr. Ajay Ranka to speak on the topic chemical-free biofarming with yield positive results. Before inviting him, Dr. Ajay Ranka has had a long and illustrious career as a pioneer and innovator in the field of nanotechnology-based solution. His focus has always been the development of sustainable technologies for conservation and extension of the life of limited resources. Dr. Ranka is BTech in Chemical Engineering from Nagpur University, India. He is MS Chemical Engineering from University of Detroit, USA. He has done PhD in Polymer Science and Engineering, Lehigh University, USA. Dr. Ranka founded Zydex Industries in 1977 as a textile chemical company, having developed 200 plus revolutionary and world-class products and solutions across divisions. Zydex continues to innovate with its philosophy of conservation and sustainability. I invite Dr. Ajay Ranka to please take the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Thank you, ICC, for inviting me. And thank you, Shubhanjit Singh and Parichoy Ghosh. Good afternoon, delegates. What I'm going to share with you is a couple of cutting edge development in how the chemical nutrient technology is going to shift to what we call as a bionutrient management. The first message is that why transition from chemical nutrient to bionutrient has not been very successful in the past, which has been economically and commercially feasible. What I have understood, and I will share with you some of the developments which we have done in India, and this is for the global implications, is biology requires a stimulation, and the way I understand at a micro level, what we have been talking about, but at a macro level, you need basically first is air. As you know, most of our lands are today compact and hard. So you need a technology to address how to make them soft and porous. And that's one of the breakthrough technologies which comes from polymer science, basically an ability to expand the soil. What it does is it also allows you to improve the water storage capacity and the gas exchange in the soil. And these are the two major stimulants for a biology to grow. Unless it has water and air to breathe, it cannot grow. Number two, where we feel that we have basically addressed an issue is the food, biological food. In India, we are fortunate that we have a very large amount of cattle in terms of the farm animals, almost 35 crore. So there is a availability of FIM to the extent of 100 million tons. And this basically is the key where you can improve what we call as the biofood availability in the fields. It is important that this FIM today needs to get biodigested fungally, not bacterially, because Indian soils are poor in fungal population because of too much of tillage, because of too much of fungicides which have been utilized in the past 50 years. So fungal biodigestion is a new technology. What we have developed, and what I will share with you is there is a technology now which can make static composting feasible in 30 to 45 days to make the complete biodigestion, convert maximum amount to humus and humic substances. At the same time, you basically make it very free flowing in a static manner. So that's a breakthrough. And the best part is once it is a free flowing, your ability to distribute is very good. And the shortage of FIM now to biostimulate the soil is not going to be there, because you can now inoculate 1 metric ton per acre rather than 5 to 10 per acre. So that's a typical area. So we are talking about addressing three basic issues: food, water, and air for the biology to sort of thrive. So now you talk about other ways of how you can stimulate and enhance the growth. Biology, I will not talk about. We have mycorrhizas. There are various species of mycorrhizas. We have the NPKs. We have the zinc. We have the sort of a range of right from subtilis all the way to everything. So we'll not get into all that technical stuff. But the issue is going to be, we need to clearly understand, finally, the customer, that means the farmer, will accept a bio solution when it becomes yield positive. That means you are replacing 100% of the chemical inputs, but you become yield positive. And that's where the economic breakthrough comes in terms of shifting to organic farming. Now, can this actually happen in one crop cycle? And I can share with you, answer is yes. Last year, we have done around 500 farms where we have been able to show that. And this includes sugarcane, potatoes, and so many nutritionally intensive crops. This year, we are moving to maybe 1,500, and hopefully by Rabi, we'll go to 5,000 or 10,000 farmers to experience what we call as Prakalpa Sanjeevani. That means one-step transformation from chemical nutrient to bionutrient technology using the entire protocol and entire product line. Now, there are a couple of interesting things which I will share with you. Recently, in the last 7-8 years, one of the key mechanisms which have been documented and published is rhizophagy. Dr. James White at Rutgers University has done a lot of research work on that, and it is published, and you can read through that. Basically, what it is telling you that through the rhizosphere and through the phyllosphere, both, you can absorb the microbes, and actually the plant uses them as a microbiome and strips the metabolite using reactive oxygen, or superoxide they call it. And essentially, you are absorbing all the metabolites in the form of amino acids and so many other things, and that's how the plant survives. So microbe not only has a role to extract the nutrient from the soils, but also has a role to actually deliver it through self sort of stripping, I would say. And they have also shown that the skeletons are again pushed back out and which regrows. So there is a complete mechanistic study. You can do that. So I think I would suggest that there are a lot of scientists here. They should now start looking at rhizophagy as a mechanism, and also look at what are the biostimulants which they can utilize to improve this rhizophagy and how it is going to help our plant growth. So that's another aspect which I would say we need to look at. The third, I would say that one thing which I have been concerned about in biostimulant is basically the botanical oils. When I looked at the plant protection from a perspective of biostimulants, and particularly for botanical oils, particularly for organic farming, what I realized, you spray many things on the leaf to protect it. But the problem is your absorption through the stomatas, through the cuticles, and through the trichomes. So essentially, all these, either you can call it the technicals, or you can call it botanical oils like neem oil and all these, they actually get absorbed into the plant leaf. Now, Actually, the purpose you want to spray on the leaf is you want to hold it on the leaf. You don't want it to be absorbed in the plant because that's where it is needed. But actually, it doesn't remain there. And then the plant starts fighting it out, plants start digesting it out. And on the 7th and 8th day, you're gone. So the technology which can create a breakthrough, and we have done part of definitely that, and we have brought it to the commercial world, is a micro encapsulation technology of these, what we will call as the botanical oils, particularly neem oil, we have worked on. And it seems to be very, very good. Instead of sort of depending on azadirachtin values of 10,000 and all that to go for a kill mechanism, I think the future is not kill, but repel. So I think we need to start up thinking from a biostimulant perspective now, saying that let's not thinking of killing, because for thousands of millions of years, you never killed. You only eliminated them. The nature already has a mechanism to eliminate them. So we do not want to genetically mutate all these pathogenic things. Let's repel them and the nature will take care of them. So I think the future scope of development should be thought in that direction. It is possible through a lot of the new nanotechnology applications where you can basically go for a repel mechanism, and also things like neem, which we are very blessed in India, has a lot of therapeutic values in small dosages. So when you encapsulate it, you control the release into the leaves, you actually get much better stimulation, much better immunity development of the plant, and it is able to resist that. Now, one of the things which I would like to share with you is when you eliminate the fertilizers, being electrolytic in nature, they require a lot of watering. Most of the chemically fertilized fields require almost double the water. The moment you go to the microbial biofertilizer route, your water becomes half. The second advantage is the moment you cut off the nitrates, the moment you cut off the ammoniums, they are the key building blocks for the protein for the microbes as well as the pathogens as well as the pests, the smaller animal kingdom. And once these are eliminated, suddenly the attack goes down. So you have a huge possibility to move towards a natural resistance buildup in the plant once you eliminate the chemical fertilizer. So definitely that is something which we should look at it. I'm sure the biostimulant technology like anti-transparent technologies and so many others are going to play a huge role in times to come with respect to, allowing this transition to happen. I just want to leave the audiences with one very specific statement. Already one crop transition from a chemical field in any type of soils, in any climatic zone, and we have proved this across India, is now possible to move to 100% organic farming with the biofertilizer, with the biostimulant technology combinations and everything, where yield positive results are coming almost 98 to 100% cases. Now, that's a very important statement, a big statement, but that's something which is based on our experience. And most of the time, we are yield positive to the extent of anywhere between 10% to 40%. So that's again a very big statement. Since this has proven itself in nutritionally intensive crops like potato, like sugarcane, I think it will be valid across all the crops. We have tested it across the crops. So that's the message I'm giving you. Look at 3 or 4 scientific areas where you are addressing the physics of the soil, you are addressing the nutritional exchange capacities of CEC, AEC through the bio-composting technologies. You look at the microencapsulation technologies for the, I would say, the botanical oils, and you look at many other things which I'm sure my other colleagues are talking about. So this is going to be a revolutionary sort of a era in the next 10 years where I think our dream of getting organic is going to come true. So all the best. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ranka. It was indeed a very marvelous talk of yours. And there were many things which normally one would not think of, especially your no-kill philosophy using micro-encapsulation technology for the essential oils. I think that may turn out to be one of the biggest revolution in future, wherein when we just try to repel and we don't kill. So that will also take care of this chemical pollution. I mean, a lot of pollution due to the chemicals. Secondly, I mean, your ideas on fungal biodegradation, I think that is also something very, I mean, different from what people have been thinking till now. Because whenever we talk about biodegradation, we mostly talk about bacterial biodegradation. And when, if at all, we have to switch to the organic farming, it becomes very important to actually convert these wastes, the agricultural waste, quickly into some form of farmyard manure or compost, which I think due to like high lignin content, I think fungal biodegradation can be one key solution to that. Apart from that, I think definitely yes, your rhizophily, again, that's something again revolutionary, because we had been always trying to more focus on the microbes in the soil. So very less studies have been there right now. I mean, of course, it is an emerging area where the philosphere microbes are also now finding it important in the plant life cycle. So I think all these pointers what you have given, it will definitely be very wise for the Indian agriculture to actually get implemented. So I urge all the scientific colleagues who are actually present in this session, I think they'll take note of it, and I think they'll start working on some of the aspects which Dr. Ranka has raised. Thank you very much, Dr. Ranka.
Thank you.
Now I would again request Mr. Vipin Saini to actually deliver his lecture. Your lecture will be very important, because I now find that in the chat box there are several queries which I think your intervention will be required. For example, which are the biostimulants that have been approved by the government of India? Before inviting, I am again giving your brief bio sketch so the audience can capture your expertise. Mr. Vipin Saini, he's a regulatory affairs specialist, educationalist, environmentalist, toxicologist, data analyst, writer and publisher, historian and book collector, and humanitarian, having about 30 years of experience in the field of biosciences and related regulatory aspects related to national and international norms. Currently, he is the Chief Executive Officer of Biological Agri Solutions Association of India, that is called BASAI, from March 2019 onwards, and also member of various governmental department committees and subcommittees. He is recently awarded for excellence in print media, agri-journalism during the Progressive Agri-Leadership Summit 2021. So I invite Mr. Vipin Saini to please share the knowledge with the vast audience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghosh, and my apologies to the audience for having some kind of a technical glitch on my end, so I could join prior to speaker, Dr. Ranka. I'll just like to quickly run through you to the background of how the legislations came into place. I heard Dr. Karan saying that it was due to the excessive use of chemical fertilizers, which I do agree to a certain extent. However, being associated with the ministry for quite some time, it was roundabout in the year 2012 that I was contacted by the Ministry of Agriculture and wanting to see how to best to navigate samples of so-called biostimulants or biological products available in the market, which were being laced with pesticides at that point. And since it was neither covered either under the Insecticides Act or the Fertilizer Control Order, hence the court could not give any kind of judgment, and it could not be regulated under or penalized under any kind of act. So therefore, in 2017, interestingly, Dr. Sudhir Bhargav, who also happens to be a board member on the Indian Council of Agriculture Research Board, gave a presentation to the registration committee, which is formed under Section 5 of the Insecticides Act, stating that these biostimulants are of prime importance and they need to be regulated. And hence in 2018, Dr. Bhargav gave his presentation in December 2017. The minutes came out in January 2018. And in 2018, the government of India formed a major committee under the chairmanship of the Director General ICAR to evaluate how to govern and legislate biostimulants in the country. Now, previously what happened during initial discussions, the fertilizer department denied taking it under its ambit for the sake of toxicology. And as I said, that there was a huge concern why this legislation came across based on the findings and the analysis of various chemicals in so-called biological products, which also gave a bad name to biologicals and is very much emphasized or further encouraged by the chemical industry just to low down the biologicals. But now the scene is different. So then a subcommittee was formed, which under the chairmanship of the ADG Plant Protection and Biosafety, and therefore the initial guidelines came across on being regulated under the Insecticides Act, and hence you can see the toxicology reflecting out over there, because both the ICR and the regulators thought that since the products are being laced with chemicals, hence toxicology should be a must. Later on in 2020, we came out with a draft. Most of the audience may be knowing about it. For those who not, just a recap. 2020, the draft came across, and on 23rd February 2021, the final legislation was notified under the FCO, the Fertilizer Control Order 1985. And there have been quite some challenges over the period of this 19 months. The journey has been quite bumpy, both for the stakeholders as well as the regulators. On the 26th of February, a clarification was given on the CFU count of microbials to be used as biostimulants. However, if you see the category of biostimulants, they say cell-free microbes. So therefore, live microbes get exempted out over there, and it's still under debate on this regard. And then in April 2021, the Central Biostimulant Committee was notified, which came into addition to the Central Fertilizer Committee, a parallel committee to deal with biostimulants. They yet have to be coming into force at this point of time. And later on in June 2021, the dates started getting extended, because the dates for submission of provisional registration initially were, I believe, if I'm not wrong, August. And then they got further shifted to 31st March 2022. And the final registration for getting the products included in the Schedule 7 also got extended till 22nd Feb 2023. I'm trying to give you a background because you need to understand where the chaos is lying at present, both with the stakeholders and with the ministry, and how things are being operated upon. Therefore, on 1st of Feb and the 3rd of Feb, there was a meeting with the industry by the division of INM under the chairmanship of Joint Secretary. And on the 3rd, it was at the state level, BIPA and Basai were also invited for the stakeholders meeting along with the states to sort out difficulties and bring to their attention that where the states are actually there are issues being faced by the stakeholders out over there, and quite of them got resolved on the spot also, and also on the minutes which were published on the 2nd of in August 2022. Later on, it was a big fight. If you see the history of FCO, when it got formed, it was in 1985, but the word manufacturer was only over there. And therefore, it was only Gazette notified in 1993 that the importers may be included along with manufacturers. And the same thing happened over here, wherein importers were being reflected in the legislation of biostimulants. However, they were excluded also. So that was clarified on the 31st of March, and therefore the extension for applying for provisional registrations of biostimulants by all stakeholders, manufacturers, come importers, was extended till 30th September 2022, which is just around the corner. If you see, we've got probably less than 32, 33 days of it to come across on working. But however, what happened was that the final date, 22nd Feb 2023, has not been extended, and there are still a chaos on what kind of data is required, though it is mentioned very clear cut, but there are still gap holes coming across. And then later on, once the dates were extended till 30th September, now the states had another query that earlier it was clarified that by the ministry that G2 certifications from the state may be provided to all stakeholders till 31st March. Now, again, as it goes, there's a lot of disconnect between the state governments and the central government. Then again, the question came across that the state government started saying, we do not have any directives from the central government that we are still supposed to issue G2s. Now that just got rectified on the 12th of August earlier this month, with another typo amendment issued on the 16th of August. Now the question comes across, and the stakeholders which are coming across at this point of time, I'll first concentrate on the provisional registrations, is that there are stakeholders who are manufacturing in one state, but they have never sold their product in that state, and they have sold it in another state. For example, I believe there a case came across where a manufacturer was manufacturing in Tamil Nadu, but was selling his product in Assam. And now Assam is not issuing because you're not manufacturing in our state, and the Tamil Nadu government is saying that you are manufacturing but you're not selling in our state, therefore we will not issue you a G2. So again, this becomes a contention of a clarification coming across, which we are taking across with the ministry. Then there are issues that have been reflected, as you may know, that some stakeholders have been issued provisional registrations. However, there also discrepancies are there. Not all of their brand names have been included, and with discussions with the ministry, they have that mindset that, see, I mean, if there's a single manufacturer, it should have one brand, and it can be sold. That brand can be sold by any person wanting to have a marketing right. But however, that doesn't happen over there, and brands are not inclusive of any other, legislation. It's got a separate legislation of its own. So therefore, one product manufactured by one person can be sold in many other products. Then the question comes across that a provisional registration has been given to the manufacturer on particular brands which have been sold for the past 3 years. That also not financial years, but total number of days, 3 years they are asking, and that too a lot of deficiencies are being issued across. So what is happening across in this regard is that tomorrow, if somebody wants to have a marketing arrangement on a new brand with any other person for the very same product that has been available for the past 10 years or 5 years or whatever, they cannot be issued a provisional registration because they have not been sold as on date or lesser period of 3 years, as I may state. I'm sure most of the stakeholders may be facing this kind of issue. Then again, if you come to the chemistry, currently people we have, as far as Basai is concerned, we've been in contact with Dr. Ghosh also for identifying and standardizing method of analysis, because everybody seeks that their product is unique. It's unique. It has got a different methodology of analysis. But however, for a post-marketing analysis, and when the analysis has to be done at the central laboratory or in state laboratories, there has to be one methodology, and the parameters need to be fixed. So so the industry is clearly working on those issues at this point of time. Toxicology is a subject of debate, whereas main stakeholders do agree upon that toxicology should be there. We do agree that across the world, toxicology is not required to this extent, or probably to no extent at all as far as I've studied. But in India, due to the lacing of chemicals, they have been placed out over there. And then again comes your tolerance limits for your heavy metals and your pesticides. Pesticides is 0.01, which is very, very stringent in terms, and is also known as a default value for a maximum residual limit in the case of pesticides, where pesticides do not have a MRL fixed in this regard. So it's a default value coming across. There is a lot of discontent on efficacy. People in our industry, most of our stakeholders, claim that the product works wonderfully on 100 crops, 50 crops. And when the question of efficacy comes across, then they're in a soup, because see, regulations come at a cost. Let us be very frank. And regulations also come once R&D has been commercialized and doing good, and all of a sudden a bomb is just exploding on the stakeholders that you see, now you need to comply to regulations. So therefore, our contention is with the ministry is to follow a crop group pattern, crop grouping pattern for efficacy. And since we do not require any residual studies in this regard, so therefore such things can be taken across. Then there is a lot of confusion on identification of 3 agroecological locations. It can be across the country, it can be within a state, whether the government will allow within the state or it has to be across the country, things like that. Shelf life, traditionally the FCO does not require shelf life data to be generated, but since most of the players now coming in come from an Insecticides Act background, have got that thing that data has to be generated and all, and there's a whole chaos, and there is absolutely no clarification from the government in this part, based on the fact that the CBC is yet to be taking into account all these issues to come across. One thing very interesting which has come up with what I heard from other speakers also, that how do you identify what is a biofertilizer, a biostimulant, and a biopesticide? Most of the speakers have prior to me have also stated that it helps in controlling some fungal disease in tomato, or it can have some repellency effect, or things like that. And it is very clearly mentioned in the definition, and first time in a definition it has been mentioned that the plant growth regulators and the biopesticides registered under the Central Insecticide Board and Registration Committee do not fall under, cannot be registered under biostimulants. And obviously, one product cannot be multiple regulated under various issues. And then it comes across that adding of nutrients in biostimulants, where the ministry says that if you want to add nutrients, then there's a separate guideline for nutrients to be registered. So, like gibberellic acid is registered under the Insecticides Act, and I have been informed that under, if I'm not wrong, seaweeds or some other kind of category of biostimulant, gibberellic acid will definitely be detected by default because it's natural. Now, once that comes into thing, again there's going to be a chaos. So these kind of clarifications, certain kind of data bridging stuff need to be taken into account. Then if you see, nobody has actually realizing that once the provisional registration has been granted, biostimulant samples can be picked up and analyzed. Now, when there is no method of analysis coming across, who is going to analyze and how? And this is going to create a chaos. And then if any of you may have gone through the sampling of biostimulants, it totally reflects the kind of magnitude in which fertilizers are there, and biostimulants are not manufactured by manufacturers or importers as per that. And then one thing I like to state over here that, I mean, the regulators and the stakeholders at that point of time wanted the product to be regulated, in proving that we happen to be a responsible stakeholder community of biostimulants. Unfortunately, neither did the government nor did the stakeholders anticipate the kind of problems at that kind of, and these are the implementation problems. If you see the Insecticides Act, it was enacted in 1968 and it came totally into force way back in 1972. It took a good 4 years to come across. Similarly, I've already given the example of FCO, still under the ECA. And then I'm sure all of you must be knowing that in February 2022, the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, Department of Fertilizers, came across with a draft bill known as the Integrated Plant Nutrition Management Bill 2022, which will replace the FCO and be out also, hopefully out of the ambit of the Essential Commodities Act. A good move, but a long way to go. Still, we haven't seen any progress on the pesticide management bill since 2008. So, therefore, the challenges for all stakeholders in this regard at this point of time, first of all, is that probably the industry is looking at a further extension for provisional registration, which will keep products on the market. And the very drawback that came across was that when the products were available in the country, at that point of time, the states should not have been involved in attaining or certifying that the product is safe or has been sold in their thing, when the companies had to give a self-certified or a CS certified certificate. The central government could have got that information directly, and they could have issued provisional registrations in this regard, and therefore the chaos would have ended, pending that the data has to be generated and to be submitted. Now, how many of the stakeholders, which are probably 60 to 70% are SMEs or MSMEs, how much are they going to do? Whether the data pooling is going to be also acceptable by the ministry. So far, there's no clarification on this regard. A number of ministries are involved, I can assure you this thing. And the ministry is quite chaotic at this point of time. 90% of the applicants have been rejected or have been issued deficiency letters for one sort of clarification or another. And the major one being that the calendar year is not acceptable 3 years prior to 23rd Feb 2022, the 2021, but it is exact 3 years as per the date that has to be. So it goes way back to 2017. And then there is a huge lie of questions that the brands which are of the same manufacturer or the same product but do not qualify for 3 years, though the product is the same, that kind of intention by the government is also still being debated upon. But as far as I see to it, I mean, implementing any legislation is a hard task and a difficult task, both for the government and for the stakeholders. I duly respect the INM division and the kind of energy they have placed in scrutinizing all the applications. And they are looking at a deadline of 30th September to do away with the original registrations rather than going into the deficiency responses and all, which again will create a lot of chaotic situation in the market. So therefore, most of the stakeholders are looking into further extension of the, for getting a provisional registration. And but however, very few people, I mean, we at BSI, I can assure you, we are already working on efficacy protocols, on standardization of analytical methods, identification of all the 8 categories of biostimulants, which components should be analyzed. And we are also in talks with Dr. Arup Ghosh over here in this regard, as far as seaweeds are concerned. And the seaweeds, all of us know, they are huge. I mean, they differ from their source of origin also, and things like that are happening. And then you also need to understand that once during the debate prior to the legislation coming into the force, there were more than 35 categories that were proposed in addition to the original ones. And however, those ones are still not being reflected out over here. So, I mean, everybody is unique. And if I'll just like to quote over here that we are just talking about biostimulants in general, and none of us has given any attention to the requirements placed in by the Department of Biotechnology on agri inputs being used in the country in agriculture, which will be based on nanotechnology. Now, whether such products, so-called now organic or natural, if developed by nanotechnology, will these products, or will such products use, have any detrimental effect on the label claim of that produce as organic or natural? So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for hearing me out. I am sure there are many things I must have missed across, but looking into the fact, every stakeholder has a different scenario, has a different issue, and categorizing them is going to be quite some difficult point over here. But I'm open to any question or answers. I'll leave my telephone number and my email. I need to rush down for another meeting, which I'm already delayed by 40 minutes. But thank you very much for the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. I hope I've been able to add some value to the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sani. I think I saw a lot of questions that were written in the chat box, and they were especially relating to what you have clarified. I thank you very much for taking your time in clarifying the issues so exhaustively. I think you have covered most of the outstanding and unresolved issues. At the same time, I feel, as you also said, that biostimulant regulation in India is very naive. It has just been started. I mean, it will be long before every and other issue that is being raised will be solved and clarified. So I think it will take some time before everything gets settled. And I think government departments are really working for it. And since you will be leaving, and I'm sure there are still many questions that are that will require your attention, so I will request you to please leave your email ID and mobile number in the chat box, so that the audiences, who are still having some doubts, they can clear the issues with you.
Dr. Ghosh, if there's any a couple of questions, I can take it right now also. I don't have any issues, if it's all right with the organizers.
I think Mr. I think it should be okay, because this is very important. I think we should be taking. Let me. Do you have the questions chat box with you?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. So I'll be reading one after another, those pertaining to you. What are all the biostimulants approved by the competent authority for use in India? Which type of biostimulants approved in India? How many approved seaweed extract biostimulants, liquid GR formulation, SOP is there? Then comes
Okay, I'll first take the first one.
Yeah.
See, biostimulants are categorized, and I'll suggest everybody who is asking these questions, please go through the Gazette. And if anybody doesn't have it, I'll leave my email, and I can always email it back to you by tomorrow or so. So, we've got 8 categories. We've got botanical extracts, which include seaweed extracts. Then we've got biochemicals. Now, biochemicals, again, as I said, it's a huge big thing going across. Then we've got protein, hydrolysates, and amino acids. Then we've got vitamins. We've got cell-free microbial products. We do not have free microbials, live microbials in this regard. Antioxidants, transparents, humic and fluvic acid, and their derivatives. So these are the 8 categories. Now, as far as the question came across that how many are being registered, so far, the ministry had sought that you categorize your product in whichever category you feel appropriate after preliminary scrutiny of your label claims and the kind of composition that you may have shared with them in your applications, which is totally confidential at this point of time with the ministry. So therefore, they are issuing. And as I said, 90% cases are being deficient for reason of further more clarity of your product. So if you've clarified that your product is as a seaweed, fair enough, done. Amino acid, done. But if you have got certain other, complex kind of a biostimulant, wherein it becomes hard to explain in the application, then there obviously when the deficiency letter is coming or the clarification inquiry is coming, people are having to do about that. So far, latest last week, I believe, I had spoken to them and they had told me that they had cleared application till the 16th of March. Now you can well imagine the volume of applications coming across. So if you guys have still not heard about your applications, probably you will be hearing across. But if your applications are way before March 2022, so you better, ask for or send across an email or go over there and try to find out what's happening with your application or what happened to your application if you didn't get a postage received by them. Next, Dr. Roop.
Yeah, another specific input. Any inputs regarding biostimulant guideline extension plan for data generation and toxicology?
See, as I told in my presentation also that earlier the provisional registration has been extended twice, right? And it was till now it's till 30th September. So therefore we are and the original submission date has not been extended till date. So therefore we are hopeful that near the date 22nd Feb 2023, we are hopeful that the ministry will grant an extension for applying the final application for inclusion in Schedule 6. Yeah.
Yeah, now I think you have already answered. What about the label claims on the products? What all ingredients will be included in biostimulants, humic acid, plant growth hormones? I think plant growth hormones is still contentious. It comes under CIB.
Yeah, I mean, see, even that case for microbials also, most of the industries of the belief that those which have been registered under the Insecticides Act may remain in the Insecticides Act, and those PGRs which are already there may remain there. But new ones can come across, and as all of you know that if a product or an active is included in the schedule of the Insecticides Act, then automatically it gets governed by them. Even if you may manufacture or not, has been in the case of borax. It reflects in the schedule of the act. However, nobody manufactures it, and it is not used. It got very minimal use in agriculture, if at all it has. So those kind of complications are coming across. Yes.
Another question, I think I'll take it as the last because we have short time.
Sure.
what is the status of finalization of product specification and test method of biostimulants? I think partly you have already answered.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, again, every person is giving a product specification and a method of analysis based on their products. Now, if there are 1,000 products being registered, we cannot have 1,000 method of analysis to be analyzed by the central laboratories or the state laboratories in this regard. So therefore, the ministerial work is going to be quite tedious, and therefore my suggestion is, and I've been in talks with BIPA also, I'm in talk with CropLife India also, and other associations, MSME also. We are trying to work closely in standardizing specifications and method of analysis. So at this point of time, we are concentrating our efforts on method of analysis and efficacy protocols. I don't know how much you've seen, but if you go across the European legislation and the Filipino legislation and the recent May 22nd Australian draft legislation that has come across, I mean, they are just like reading a foreign writer's book, wherein they give examples and then they clarify example wise, whereas they do not tend to give you a clarity on what is your requirement. So there is a basically data bridging kind of thing where a waiver can be given under what circumstances. Unfortunately, that is not majority in the case in a legislation in India, where they are well defined, and catering to those answers becomes quite a challenge in this regard.
Yeah, and several people have actually written to provide them flow chart for provisional registration. So I think where can they get this information? I think
see a flow chart. I mean, we can prepare one for everybody. I can send it across to the organizers, and probably they can send it across to everybody. However, I will be leaving my name, my phone number, and my email. If anybody wants, you can also directly contact us. We will directly send it across to you, all kind of documents in this regard. Okay, that'll be fine.
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. Sani, for being so elaborate, and I think most of the questions in the chat box from the audiences have been answered. If not, I mean, you can directly.
I believe there was just one on the marketing license and the manufacturing license.
Yes.
Manufacturing obviously will be from the state, but marketing now, no state. Once you have got a provisional registration, till the final registration date is expired, every state has to grant a marketing license to whomsoever has got a provisional registration. There's no question, no doubt about it. And similarly, once you get your product included in the schedule of the FCO under Schedule 6, therefore, it has to be registered. It has to be, marketing approvals need to be given by every state. No state can now deny a marketing approval once you've got, starting from the moment you get your provisional registration. Okay, so that will be all from my side.
So I thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful. I hope I've been of some use. Thank you very much. I'll take your leave now. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite Dr. Anubhav Mohili, who has been the product development lead for top health plants at the Seaweed company since February 2021. In the Seaweed company, he is finding solutions to help farmers transit towards sustainable agriculture using biostimulants and regenerative agricultural practices. Over the last 12 years, he has worked in plant ecology, climate change, and regenerative agriculture. He achieved his PhD from the University of Tübingen, Germany, in plant ecology with a focus on metal hyperaccumulation in plants, while his postdoctoral research focused on the effects of climate change on crops and their adaptation to it. I now invite Dr. Anubhav Mohili to present your talk on the benefits of seaweed-based biostimulant on crops. Dr. Anubhav, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh, for the nice introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I will give you a brief overview of benefits of seaweed-based biostimulants on crops. However, this perspective will come more from the European perspective because I've been only working in the European market at present. And my talk will basically consist of the general problem we have, what are the biostimulants in European market, and few results from our own top hill plant, which is a unique blend of ascophyllum, which is a brown seaweed. So as we know, the population of the world is expected to reach 10 billion by 2050. And to feed the world, we will need to increase the yields of the crop. However, not increase the amount of agricultural lands used for growing these crops. However, this increase in yield needs to be in a sustainable manner. Since over the last century, overdependence on both pesticides and fertilizers have degraded the environment and the soil. And as many of us know that the soil supports 95% of the food production and filters out the water. However, processes such as loss of biodiversity in the soil, acidification, loss of organic matter due to agriculture practices over the last century have led to 52% of the world's agriculture soil already degraded. The USA has lost 50% of its topsoil. 75 to 85% of the soil has less than 2% organic matter in Europe, and 62% of the India's soil has less than 0.5% organic content, which would be approximately 3 to 6%. And furthermore, UN and FAO warns us that if we do not focus on soil health, then by 2050, crop yields in certain regions could fall below 50% due to the climate change. And due to food and water security, could force 1 billion people to leave their homes and migrate to different places. So there are three major challenges that we have. First, we need to improve the soil structure and quality. We need to improve the plant growth and yields in a sustainable way, and we need to make the plants more resilient to stress factors that are becoming more common due to climate change. We have more droughts, more frequency of droughts, at higher rates of drought. So what is the solution? So one of the solution, it's not the key solution or it's not the silver bullet. It's one of the solution is using biostimulants. So according to EU, what are biostimulants? Biostimulants are any products that can increase the water use efficiency, improve the stress tolerance of the plants, induce systematic resistance, help in disease tolerance, and can also help increasing the plant to have higher nutrient use efficiency. So it's not directly application of any kinds of nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium, or any kinds of nutrients or micronutrients. It is the indirect effect that it has. So categories of biostimulants are humic and fulvic acid, seaweeds, they're beneficial microbes and bacteria, and they're also protein-based compounds that can be used as biostimulants. The most important thing that is looked at it from EU's perspective is it should improve nutrient efficiency, biotic stress tolerance, and crop quality. There have been numerous studies in literature all over the world that have shown that biostimulants do have a lot of benefits in the plants. They do increase the root length, root diameter, enhance the crop yields. They do increase the antioxidant compounds in the plants, and they do have enhanced the ability of the plant to tolerate themselves to abiotic and biotic stress. And the biostimulant market is growing. Over the last year, 11% of the biostimulant market has grown in Europe. And it is projected that by the end of year, 276 million hectares of croplands will be used by biostimulants. And I do think here the new entrepreneurs in India can think about the KSAP or the different kinds of biostimulants that are made in India that can also be put into the European market, which is a huge market working towards the development of more sustainable farming practices. And one of them is biostimulants. Now, particularly, my talk will focus on seaweed-based biostimulants. And particularly, when we look at seaweed-based biostimulant, it has been very well explained by Dr. Ghosh before, but there are many different types of seaweed-based biostimulants, and they can be differentiated based on seaweed species. So there are different seaweed species growing at different places. The extraction process. So every extraction process has a different effect. If you have a cold extraction, you have an alkaline extraction, acid extraction with warm temperature or cold temperature will have different effects and will lead to different bioactives that are available for you to be in your product. And the concentration of extract is also very important. There are companies that have 30% seaweed extract, some have 12, some have 10. It really depends on the concentration of what they are trying to extract from the seaweeds. And there are many different application rates that have been that are basically used. And very innovative thing that is coming up these days is co-formulation. So it's not using one biostimulant. You can co-formulate it with different biostimulant. It could be a co-formulation of, let's say, we could also co-formulate between species. Let's say we can have a seaweed extract from asco mixed with KSAP, or seaweed extract mixed with humic acid and fulvic acid. They have different benefits and different bioactive properties. So moving more towards the product that we have at present at the Top Hill plant, which is a proprietary seaweed-based blend. And this is basically a product made up of Ascophyllum nodosum, which is a seaweed mostly growing in cold waters, and particularly in areas of Greenland and cold island waters. They do have many bioactive ingredients and which do have many benefits. And the bioactive ingredients most commonly present are basically alginates, polysaccharides, betanes, fucodins, lamarin, and all of these have either provide an advantage with abiotic or biotic stress and increased crop yields. And alginates have been shown to improve the soil structure and retain the soil moisture and the crumb structure. And even the ascophyllum also has a lot of plant growth hormones, which do improve root development or stimulate cell elongation, such as cytokinins and auxins. So the benefits of seaweed extracts, particularly Ascophyllum nodosum extract, there have been a lot of literature on it. There have been a lot of studies, especially in Europe and worldwide, where they have seen a lot of benefits of it. Such as they improve the growth and fruit quality. They do play an important role with salinity, drought, and freezing stress resilience, basically abiotic stresses. They do help for the plant to grow better because the photosynthesis increases. And they also play a very important role in enhancing the below ground parts of the plant, that is promoting the beneficial bacteria such as mycorrhiza and nitrogen fixating bacteria. They also have a role in enhancing the nutrient uptake by the plant and making it more available for the plants. And some of the seaweed ascophyllums have shown a bioactivity against some of the soil pathogens, such as nematodes here. And now I would like to quickly take you through some of the trials which we have done here in Europe and the interesting results we have seen with biostimulant of our seaweed extract. So like we did a trial over 10 hectares where we tried to measure the soil moisture content. As we know, climate is changing, there's going to be a shortage of water. So it would be nice if there's less water used for irrigation. And particularly in Europe this year, there was a very strong drought effect. So there was a huge drought and it's still going on at present. So what we saw that at 10, 20 and 30 centimeters, there was an increase of water holding capacity by 38 to 44%. And So there was 38 to 48% less water required when the fields were treated with the biostimulant product, ascophyllum biostimulant. We also saw interesting results with, somehow it's taking a bit of time with going to the next slide. We also did some trials with potato fields over 1.54 hectares and 3.2 hectares. And we did see an increase in yield by 22% and 12%. And we also did see the increase in number of potatoes, which are very important. So more potatoes and higher yields. And now moving on to the onion results, and we also had a trial going for around 10 hectares, for over an area of 10 hectares. And we did see an increase of 21% yield of onions. And we did also see more onions and higher yield increase with the onions. And finally, we also had some trials these are all the trials which we did over the last 1 year. And on the barley results, what we see was there was an increase in the protein content. And if you look at the picture, you clearly see there was an early maturation of the kernel. So the treated area turned browner much faster compared to the untreated area. And this was a trial done over 4 hectares. However, we do also need to understand the perspective. This was done for a brewing company who need very low concentration. So they don't want their protein content to increase, but they would like to increase their yield, which is a very different perspective. However, we increased the protein content, but we also increased the yield. But the protein content, when it increased, it was not feasible to use it as a brew because it will have using it to make beer. But if you look at it, if you want to make bread or something else from barley, it is a very interesting thing. It is very interesting result that we see a 3% increase in the protein content. And with that, I would like to sum up my talk for today. So liquid seaweed extracts will be a part of the global solution of increasing food production under climate change, pests, and other natural diseases, because they do provide plant the ability to fight against abiotic and biotic stress. And it's a sustainable way of increasing production because it's through recycling of nutrients. That is, when the seaweeds are growing in the ocean, there's a lot of nutrients that have leached out over the years because there was a lot of nitrogen added. There was a lot of phosphorus added, which have reached the ocean. And seaweed just grows with these and tries to avoid the eutrophication effect that could have happened in the environment. And finally, it does improve the plant's defenses and resistance to the abiotic stress in that rapid changing world. So the world is changing quite a lot, and the seaweed biostimulants does provide some kind of a security with this abiotic and biotic stress. So with that, I would like to thank you all for the attention, and thanks to the organizers to have me over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anubhav, for sharing wonderful views and the information about the global perspective of the use of biostimulants. Certainly, with your talk, we are sure that this biostimulant sector is going to really go long and would enable improving the agricultural productivity in a very cost effective as well as carbon friendly manner. Thank you very much once again. I now invite Dr. Renuka Dhawan, who will be our last speaker of the day. Dr. Renuka Dhawan is a first generation entrepreneur who started BioPrime after 17 years of academic research. She did her PhD in plant biotechnology and postdoctorate in genetic engineering. Renuka grew up watching her grandmother single-handedly manage their farms in rural Solapur of Maharashtra. She developed an instant connection and passion for agriculture and was deeply influenced by the plight of the farmers. She started BioPrime along with her two closest scientist friends, with the aim of redefining agriculture and transforming lives. As CEO of BioPrime, she is in charge of strategic planning and development with a focus on R&D roadmap, strategic partnerships, and funding. So I now invite Dr. Renuka Dhawan to please deliver her talk on next generation biostimulants, cutting edge technology and discoveries reshaping the biostimulant sector. Dr. Renuka.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh, for the kind words and introduction. I have been tasked by being the last speaker to, retain everybody's interest as well as stick to the time schedule. So, without further time, I'll share my presentation. I hope my screen is visible. So today I will be speaking about what the next generation of biostimulants would look like, and what are the technologies or some of the technologies that are currently shaping up the biostimulant industry, and what can we expect in the next couple of years as transformative biostimulants to hit the market. Um, a lot has been said about the current biostimulant industry by the industry stalwarts already. So my job here is relatively easy. Let's just start with a very quick overview of what the research in biostimulants is looking like currently. It's very encouraging to see that in the last couple of years, the publications in this sector has risen 300%. And just from 2020 to 21, despite the COVID, the number of publications has increased by 50%. India is doing fairly well in terms of its research in the biostimulant, and happens to be one of the top 10 countries in the biostimulant research segment. If we look at what are the aspects that the people are studying, we will find that the shift is happening from humic, fulvic, protein, amino acids, hydrolysates kind of products towards plant extracts, towards botanicals, towards secondary metabolites. So we see that being reflected in the number of publications that are hitting their journals. In the microbial biostimulant space, still a lot of focus is on nutrient use efficiency, and therefore on nitrogen and potassium and phosphate as well. Along with this, we see a lot of tricho and myco taking center stage. Besides this, a lot of research is not happening or not hitting the scene as we see. So if we look at the different activities in the whole sector, we see that a lot of biostimulants are being studied for their stress-related effect and then nutrient use efficiency. Very little research is being done on the yield enhancement per se, and I feel that this could be one of the upcoming areas for people in the biostimulant industries to target, because once we have the baseline products that take care of stress, that address DROS salinity, that take care of nutrient use efficiency, the next thing that would be required would be yield, and not just in terms of total yield, but also in terms of quality. Right now, just 28% of the publications are focusing on this. Something that is being ignored or something that's not being researched in would be a very good commercial area, would be the food fortification that happens because of the biostimulants. So can we look into areas where the biostimulants are increasing, antioxidant potential biostimulants are increasing, the sugars or the carbohydrates or the vitamins that the produce or the crops that are using these biostimulants have. So that would be a very interesting area that would be coming up. Not to mention something that will come up in a very, very big way would be reducing the carbon footprint and offsetting and giving carbon credits for the farmers. This is slowly picking up in the US or the European side, but still a lot of research has to be done in terms of how do we allocate the carbon credits to the farmers. a lot of activities slowly picking up in India on regenerative agriculture, and we feel that this would be one of the hot areas for the biostimulant industry to, keep an eye on and establish some tie-ups. So when we talk about the next generation of biostimulants, when we are saying that people are moving beyond seaweeds, people are moving beyond humic acids, fulvic acids, and protein hydrolyzers, how do we even discover these molecules? What are we looking for? How do we look for them, and how do we find them? So let me just take you through a very quick journey of currently the most cutting edge technology used by us as well as some of the industry experts. Something that is shaping up in a very big way is automated phenotyping. So integrating spectral analysis, combining it with physiology, molecular biology, combining it with biochemistry, gives us much deeper understanding into how the biostimulants are working, what is exactly happening in the plant, how are the plants responding to the biostimulants that we give. This also actually is a very, very effective and a shortcut way of screening of biostimulants. We have a very good facility in India with IRI, which has a phenotyping, entire phenotyping setup. And I would suggest we are also in partnership using the facility, but I think this is an area that can change and hasten the development of the biostimulants. Once we know what is happening in the plants or how the biostimulants are responding, how the crops are responding to the biostimulants, it's important to understand exactly what is happening at the gene level. What is the mode of action? Now with the new biostimulant guideline, it becomes very important for us to define what the mode of action is. Once we have such definitive comparisons of our biostimulants versus the competitors or the other products in the market, we are able to very quickly determine whether our biostimulant in the field would be effective, how much more effective it would be, what are the genes it would be activating, and therefore plant transcriptomics is taking a center stage. If plant transcriptomics is coupled with automated phenotyping, it would be a very, very powerful tool for development of new biologicals. Together, this constitutes a high throughput screening mechanism for screening microbes, screening bioactive molecules from the microbes or plants, or any other nanomaterials that the industry is developing. So for mode of action, plant transcriptomics definitely makes a lot of sense. Reddy sir spoke a lot about metagenomics. So my work here is very, very simple. The metagenomics approach will take a center stage, not just in terms of soil metagenomics or analysis, but in terms of developing traits or having trait modifying microbes for the plants. For this, the approach is hologenomics, which means that we're not looking at plant and we're not looking at a trait just as a gene into environment interaction, but we're looking at this as a complete set of organisms that reside within the plants. So the fitness of the plants, fitness of the crops is determined by the genes that are there in the plants, but along with it, what kind of microorganisms it harbors. And metagenomic analysis is a very, very effective method for us to understand what kind of microorganisms are having beneficial relationship with the plants. This is currently being studied in respect to drought stress tolerance, in respect to disease tolerance in different kind of plants. This is an approach we also use at BioPrime in terms of understanding what are the microbes that can be utilized as trait modifying microbes and can be used to develop the next generation of biostimulants. These microbes then can also be used in seed priming. They can be used in developing seed coatings and can also be used as application in the field. once we're looking at all of this put together, somewhere or the other, we come to a systems biology approach, which is a holistic approach. We at Bioprime definitely feel that the industry is moving away from a very narrowed down, very single cell kind of an approach or a single organism kind of an approach to an ecosystem approach, which is going to lead to more sustainable methods in agriculture, which is going to lead to more sustainable products being developed. Integration of all of these technologies together would give us a systems biology approach. Systems biology approach would also help us understand things that are not yet known. So taking an approach in terms of understanding microbe developments, understanding biostimulants development, understanding different kind of effector molecules development, a systems biology approach would give us insights, would give us novel targets, would give us new modes of action, which is something that the industry is definitely looking for. Now that we've spoken about some of the most upcoming and cutting edge technologies that are being used currently in the industry, what are the discoveries in this space that are likely to hit the market in the next 5 to 10 years? We've looked at physiology modulation, we've looked at the entire biostimulants from a physiology modulation point of view. Taking it a step further would be deciphering the signaling molecules themselves, which can, very precisely target different processes in plants. This is the approach that we take at Bioprime in developing our biostimulants. Most of our biostimulants are based on plant signaling molecules, which makes them very, very targeted, very, very rapid in action. On the right-hand side, you can see a picture where a signal is emerging from a corner of a leaf, where a caterpillar is, chewing it. That signal transpires through the leaf and then through the plant. It actually does not even stop there. From the plant, it gets into the soil or is released into the air and then can be picked up by adjacent plants. So how can we find these kind of signaling molecules? How can we leverage them to develop different kind of biologicals is something that we are looking at Bioprime. So studying the fundamentals of plant communications is one of our core areas. Some of the signaling molecules being researched right now and very likely to hit the market are cinnamic acid, oligomers, jasminids, GABAs, peptides. We work on phytospinganins, peptides, phenolic acid-based signaling molecules at Bioprime. One of the very little researched but a very, very promising area in biostimulant sectors is going to be epigenetic modeling. So it's not just about the genes that the plants have, but the histone modifications on top of these genes actually determines whether that gene is going to be transcribed and whether we are going to see a trait or not. Epigenetic modeling is a subtle level of genetic control. It is not a genetic engineering approach, and therefore is something that countries with very stringent GMO policies like India, can try with. So there are a lot of plant molecules, there are a lot of microbes that themselves by association cause epigenetic modeling. These epigenetic changes are not just stable in the plant's life cycle, but the best part about some of these epigenetic modeling is they can be carried from one generation to other generation. So seeds primed with epigenetic modulators can inherently be more resistant to disease or abiotic stress tolerance. This would be one of the most upcoming areas that we would see in biostimulants in the next 10 years. Everything need not just be about modern chemistry or better approaches. Sometimes it could be about delivery. And India is going in a big way about the drone-based spraying approach. However, we are using the same kind of formulations for drone-based approach, where droplet formulation, drift, toxicity still remain as unaddressed issues. If we, as the biostimulant industry, can devise formulations for ultra low volume spraying, that would be a game changer in itself. I'm very happy to say that at BioPrime, we've developed ultra low volume formulations of 5 ml, which comes in a clear, transparent liquid that can be used for drone-based spray. So sometimes the next trends or the next next things or the next best things in biostimulants could come from unexpected places like packaging or delivery. And that is something we as innovators should keep our eyes open for. I have tried my best to cover some of these approaches in a very brief manner because I am aware that we have overstepped our time. I'm happy to interact with the participants if they have any further questions on it. A lot of this work that, a lot of the work that we presented, a lot of the approaches that I mentioned is something that we do at BioPrime. And I must, since I have this stage, I must tell you that startups like us in deep technology have been able to do this because of the incredible government support that is available. So many thanks for Department of Biotechnology, BIRAC, IRI, Niti Aayog for making some of this possible. Last but not the least, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity, a startup, an opportunity amongst the stalwarts in the industry to give 2 cents of our knowledge in this topic. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Renuka. It could not have been better. Thank you very much for sharing so nice information, which is very much updated about the innovative and cutting edge technologies, which really like transcriptomics, metagenomics, epigenetics. They can really transform the understanding of biostimulants. With this, I think we end up with the list of speakers. We really do not have much time, but I think we may take at least one question. Dr. Mirza has asked Dr. Ranka. The question goes like, hey, please ask Dr. Ranka which fungal species can be used to decompose cow dung in 45 days to convert it into manure. Dr. Ranka, if you'd like to answer this question, please.
I think, first of all, what you need to understand, Dr. Mirza, is that it is not only the fungal species which will accelerate the decomposition. What you have to manage in the formulation is basically aeration in the cow dung compost, number one. Number two, you have to ensure that your fungal species are able to penetrate throughout the entire mass. So you need to have enough of dilution of the fungal species and entrench, sort of soak that in that, number two. Number three, you have to also ensure that the water retention capacity of the cow dung sort of mass is managed properly along with the aeration under a static biocomposting technique. So this is the core of the technology. And then as far as the fungal species are concerned, there are many, even IRI has a fungal species which is basically designed for rice biomass to be decomposted. What we have seen is that mycorrhiza, different species, which could be the ecto, endo. We have seen trichoderma. We have seen the natural funguses, which are part of the stimulation itself, can be sort of enhanced with respect to their generation, their growth, and then particularly their ability to sort of one biodigest the sort of what we call as the fodder residue, along with the organic matter which is there to convert that into humus. And then if you have the right kind of a structure forming technology, then you can make it free flowing rather than in lumpy form. Today, most of our biomanure, particularly FIM available in the fields, is in the lumpy form. So it is difficult to spread. It needs to be like a tea patti, chai patti ke jaisa chahiye. So that is the way. So any general good fungal species would biocompost any organic matter, particularly more having lignin content and having more this thing, but particularly taking it towards the I would say humus and humic substances are what we need to get out. And this is important for you to understand that these are the two substances, class of substances, which can give you the CEC and AEC both. Most of the people miss out and focus only on CEC. What they do not understand is even AEC is also as important. So this is something to be understood, but I've given you a little comprehensive, longer answer than what you may be looking for, but hope that makes everything clear.
Thank you, Dr. Ranka. It has indeed been a very enlightening session. All the speakers, they were very much informative. And it also elicited a lot of questions, and I'm very happy that most of the questions were almost answered. There are few questions also that are left, and I think due to the lack of time, the audiences, the participants can get one-to-one with the various speakers, all of whom have given their contact number as well as email ID in the chat box. So now with this, I hand over the stage again to Mr. Susanjit, who would take it forward.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. After a very insightful and knowledgeable session, I am really honored and take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all our distinguished speakers for gracing this conference with their participation and for sharing with us their expertise. I also extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Kannan Srinivasan for his presence and for delivering the welcome address. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. Arup Ghosh for moderating this session and making it so very interesting and thoughtful. My special thanks to all our sponsors and partners for this e-conference, our associate sponsors, Sri Bioaesthetics Private Limited, and supporting partners Bioprime Agri Solutions Private Limited and Zydex Industries Private Limited. Your support has helped us in making this a successful event. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all our delegates who have joined us for this conference and have supported us for this event. No doubt, the session was very enriching and beneficial for all of us. All our distinguished guests have extensively discussed about the biostimulant sector, about the emerging opportunities and future strategies for biostimulant sector, various regulations or which have come up, and the demands of the industry have also been put forward. Excuse me. At the end, we can conclude that in the economy of a developing country like India, biostimulant market has a promising future, and we look forward to stalwarts like you all to support and come forward for highlighting this sector more. With that, I end my vote of thanks, and I request you all to carry it with a huge round of accolades. Thank you all. Thank you all once again for participating in this conference. Thank you. And goodbye. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Be safe.
Thank you all.
Thank you.